A quiet afternoon in the small town of Montana suddenly turned into a battlefield. 5 ruthless men from a notorious motorcycle gang stormed into the coffee shop. They targeted a woman in a wheelchair. They taunted her, shoved her chair, convinced she was easy prey. But they made a deadly mistake. That woman, Sarah Mitchell, was not just a veteran who'd lost her legs in the war. She was a covert FBI agent, a dangerous warrior with razor-sharp intellect and combat skills honed through pain. How could someone perceived as weak turn the tables, shattering a multi-million-dollar criminal empire? Sarah's story will astonish you. It will move you. It will remind you that true strength doesn't lie in the legs, but in unwavering will and relentless adaptability. Join us as we explore her journey, where every roll of her wheels is a strike against prejudice and crime. Click subscribe to our channel. Discover even more captivating, unforgettable stories. Sarah Mitchell wheeled through the rugged streets of Pinewood, Montana, as the sun set in a blaze of crimson. Each silent turn of her wheels scraped against the uneven pavement like an eerie soundtrack. Her wheelchair creaked softly, yet every movement was as precise as a well-programmed machine. Beneath her weathered coat, a concealed Sig Sauer pressed against her spine like an unspoken secret. For 3 years, Sarah had meticulously maintained the perfect cover. A wounded veteran, living quietly, avoiding curious glances. No one in this small town suspected that she was in fact a covert FBI agent, hunting the Black Viper's multi-million-dollar arms trafficking network. She paused outside Emma's quaint little cafe. Emma, the only friend who knew her true identity. The last light of day cast brilliant orange patches across the street. "Sarah, how are you today?" Emma greeted her with a warm smile, her voice gentle as a bell tolling in the stillness. Sarah merely shrugged and replied tersely, "Same as always." But in her heart, she knew today would be different. Her secure phone vibrated inside her coat pocket, an urgent message from her superior, Agent Harper. A major weapons shipment was en route to Pinewood. The Black Vipers were off guard. Inside the cafe, the espresso machine gurgled, mingling with the scent of freshly baked honey cakes. Sarah set her sweetened latte on the table and cast a steely glance through the window. In the corner, a man in a black jacket lurked, shifting his shoulders as he watched. Suspicion flickered in his eyes at the sight of Sarah's slight frame. She inhaled deeply, closed her eyes for a moment of calm, then refocused. Every sense honed in on one objective: dismantle the Black Viper's plot, capture their leader, and seize those dangerous weapons. A flash of memory seized her, the blast in Kabul, when she looked at the faint scar on her left arm. 3 years ago, in an ambush, she sacrificed her legs to save her comrades. That was the day she learned true strength lay not in mobility, but in indomitable will and decisive action. From the military hospital, she'd transitioned into the FBI's special ops training, sharpening her combat, sniper, and undercover investigation skills. Few would ever guess that a woman in a wheelchair could stand toe-to-toe with ruthless arms dealers. Darkness lengthened as Sarah glided past the dilapidated guard booth at the end of Main Street. The streetlights flickered, barely piercing the cold night. She turned into a narrow alley where a blacked-out delivery truck waited, the rendezvous point for the shipment. She calmly drew her phone and texted, "Arrived at location," then stowed it away as she spotted 2 burly men rifling through the truck's trunk. They paid no heed to the faint whisper of her wheels against the concrete. The decisive moment had arrived. Sarah eased her finger under the trigger mounted beneath her wheelchair seat. With nimble precision, she flipped off the safety. Her nerves tightened like guitar strings. Her heartbeat thundered in her chest. She signaled headquarters. "Maintain comms. Prepare support." Her voice, hoarse yet commanding, shattered the illusion of frailty. In the eyes of these smugglers, she was easy prey, but they had made a deadly miscalculation. Suddenly, a row of flashlights illuminated her face. They recoiled at the rasp of her wheelchair's throttle and the hiss of a gunshot slicing through the alley. 2 rounds slammed into the container wall, shredding steel into jagged fragments. Sarah pivoted her barrel straight at the Black Viper's enforcers and fired 2 more shots, incapacitating the right rear tire of the truck and sending it careening out of control. Chaos erupted. From the shadows, Sarah's team, 2 other undercover agents, leapt into action, flanking the truck. The smuggler's phone flashes flickered like meteors in the night. Shouts and the thud of canvas sacks hitting pavement echoed all around. Adrenaline surged through Sarah's veins as she wheeled forward and bellowed, "Surrender!" Her voice reverberated through the abandoned buildings. No one dared resist when the wheelchair transformed into a war chariot, annihilating the criminal's nightmare. Within minutes, it was over. The $1 million cache of weapons lay secured. Gang members were cuffed and subdued. Sarah approached the fallen duffel bags, stooped to retrieve the metal case of firearms. Under the weak yellow light, pride shone on her features. Today, she hadn't just shattered a criminal pipeline. She'd shattered the prejudices against the disabled. Every turn of her wheels, every shot fired, affirmed one truth. Real power springs from will and intellect. When the ambulance arrived, Sarah calmly wheeled herself back, refusing to hurry to the FBI safe house. She paused before the wooden sign carved with pine wood, where humanity prevails. A streetlight from afar bathed her face, highlighting beads of sweat still clinging to her skin. She smiled softly, her eyes gleamed with resolve. The road ahead was long, but today she'd won a pivotal battle. Pinewood's night fell silent again, but for Sarah Mitchell, this was only the beginning of dismantling a criminal empire. The cafe doors suddenly swung open, revealing 3 figures clad in glossy black leather. The Black Viper's snake emblem glinted under the weak yellow light. The air inside grew suffocating. The leader, Victor Cobra Hayes, descended the steps with deliberate ease, a leering smile on his face. His eyes swept the room before settling on Sarah Mitchell, seated quietly in her worn wheelchair. His voice rumbled, hoarse and slurred with alcohol and cigarette smoke. "Well, look who we have here. The local action heroine. You always show up right when we're doing business, as if you're stalking us." Sarah barely furrowed her brow and kept her head bowed in silence. Yet inside, her heart pounded, awakening the warrior instinct long dormant. Beneath her simple coat, the Sig Sauer lay concealed, awaiting its moment, though today was not that moment. She lifted her gaze and replied softly but firmly, "I just live here, Victor." Those seemingly casual words concealed an unwavering resolve. Victor sneered and stepped closer, invading her personal space. His breath reeked of tar-black smoke and bitter liquor. "Perhaps we should help you find another place to stay," he threatened through narrowed eyes. "Accidents happen easily, especially to someone like you." The cafe's lights seemed to flicker out. Patrons turned away, avoiding the biker's gaze to steer clear of trouble. Only Emma, the cafe owner, remained silent behind the counter, her hands trembling as they clutched the wooden rail. No sound broke the tense pause, only the idle clicking of the espresso machine and the ticking of the wall clock marking every anxious second. Sarah surveyed their formation, 2 henchmen flanking Victor, cutting off every escape route, their faces as cold as ice. This wasn't her first encounter with the Viper's intimidation tactic, a basic encirclement to isolate victims and force compliance. She knew every step of their plan by heart. In the dim light, the scar on her arm seemed to bleed memories of Kabul, reminding her of that tragic day when she sacrificed her legs to save her team, but gained unbreakable mental fortitude and elite close-quarters combat skills in return. Her Krav Maga techniques had even been adapted for a wheelchair, a creative advantage that would let her vanquish her enemies when they least expected it. Yet now she had to conceal her strength. Her evidence network wasn't solid enough yet. She focused on feigning fear, letting Victor and his cronies believe she was a helpless target. She inhaled deeply, forced her racing pulse to settle, and shook her head with watery apprehension. "Please, I don't want any trouble." Victor laughed darkly, lowering his head to glare through yellowed teeth. He beckoned Crusher, the hulking bodyguard built like an iron cabinet, to step forward. Crusher gripped the wheelchair's handles and shoved with all his might. Sarah lurched and toppled onto the cold wooden floor. Her sweetened latte flew from the table, splattering the floor like a blot of fake blood. Their raucous laughter echoed, a savage soundtrack to their cruelty. Sarah lay still, feigning dizziness, lips pressed together, limbs curled in feigned weakness. In her mind, she detailed every feature: Victor's murderous gaze, Crusher's bulky shoulders, and the two lackeys poised to strike. She would wipe away her tears of pretense and unleash her revenge at the perfect moment. Outside, rain pattered rhythmically on the tin roof, a drumbeat heralding the coming clash. Sarah stifled the pain in her ribs from the fall, then silently pivoted toward the cafe door. She noted the door's bolt was not fully secured, a small gap offering a chance to escape. But now was not the time. Emma peered through the gap between the pastry rack and the espresso machine, her eyes brimming with fear and belief. Sarah gave a slight nod, a silent signal for Emma to stay calm and keep her position. Victor leaned in close, amusement in his mocking tone. "Don't pretend to be weak with me, Mitchell. You're nothing but prey." Sarah closed her eyes and swallowed hard. Her voice wavered, but each word carried hidden meaning. She was watching, remembering, planning. Suddenly, Crusher heard a faint click behind him, the door bolt slipping free. The side door creaked open, casting a pale beam onto the old iron frame. Victor whirled around, startled, his focus broken for a split second. That was Sarah's cue. Her heart tightened like a drawn bow, her finger curled around the trigger ring beneath her seat. One moment was all she needed to shatter this gang's formation. Yet for now, she offered only a faint smile, eyes half closed, as though already defeated. Crusher advanced another step, until Victor snarled sharply, grabbing his arm. "Wait, let me handle her first." He glanced toward the side door, sensing danger, lips pressed together, but it was too late. Sarah sprung up like a released spring, thrusting her wheelchair forward at Crusher. In an instant, her wheel struck his leg, levering him off balance. She fired her left-hand shot. The gun screamed, and the bullet tore into his hand, forcing him to drop the cafe chair with a crash that drowned out the rain. Victor recoiled, stumbling backward. Without hesitation, Sarah leveled her muzzle at him, her voice ice-cold. "Stop, or I won't hesitate to shoot." A shiver-freezing silence fell. The cafe air froze. The two remaining henchmen slowly lowered their weapons, raising their hands in surrender. The shattered coffee cup, its sugary contents spilled across the wooden floor, marked their defeat. Sarah spoke with authority now. "I am the FBI, Victor Cobra Hayes. You're under arrest for illegal arms trafficking. Lower your weapons." The Black Vipers trembled, realizing their fatal misjudgment. The cafe doors cracked open, Red and blue lights from armored vehicles and patrol cars shimmered in the alley. Agent Harper and the support team stormed in, sealing off every exit. In the final chaos, Sarah exhaled, a wave of relief washing over her. She settled back into her wheelchair, eyes shining with quiet pride. Under the cafe's dim lights, the sugary puddles on the floor whispered that not even the deepest wound could stop courage. Victor and his gang were led away in handcuffs. The clink of metal was the death knell of their criminal empire. Emma approached and placed a trembling hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Sarah, you did it." Sarah merely nodded and offered a small smile. "This is only the beginning." Outside, Pinewood's night regained its stillness. But for Sarah Mitchell, this was the first victory in her mission to dismantle the Black Viper's network, and proof of the extraordinary power hidden within someone deemed helpless. And she knew that while justice had prevailed today, the road ahead remained long. Night descended over Pinewood like a black velvet curtain, stretching across empty streets and low wooden houses lit by faint yellow lamps. Sarah Mitchell silently wheeled her chair down the deserted road. The wheels creaked in a steady rhythm, like breaths filled with determination. The little house on the outskirts appeared beyond the white gravel fence, her secret base since infiltrating the Black Vipers. With wide views and multiple escape routes, it had become the stronghold for her boldest plans. She expertly locked the back door, checking the safety latches 3 times. Her nimble hand switched on a flashlight, sweeping the window frames to ensure no intruders watched. Once every corner lay quiet, Sarah relaxed her shoulders, inhaled deeply, and tried to shake off the day's tension. Inside, the wind whispered through the wooden cracks, reminding her that beneath Pinewood's peaceful facade lurked secrets and danger. Her hidden phone in the false wall compartment buzzed. Agent Harper appeared on the screen, followed by a tense voice. "The weapons shipment arrives tomorrow night. Don't act rashly, Mitchell." Sarah's lips curved in a smirk. Excitement coursed through her, overpowering fatigue. She thought, "They will pay." She slid a painting aside to reveal a secret panel, exposing a bank of advanced computers and surveillance gear. A large screen displayed Pinewood's map with security cameras at key intersections. Blinking code signaled live feeds from the old warehouse gates, the sawmill, and the pine forest trail along the riverbank. Sarah moved her cursor to the Black Viper's headquarters, a fortified workshop stacked with dozens of weapon-laden containers, primed for shipment. Whispering to herself and to Harper, she said, "They're overconfident. That's their greatest mistake." From the surveillance room, she glided into the hallway leading to the bedroom costume room. There hung her tactical vest, each ammo pouch and belt adjustment tailored for her seated posture. Sarah traced the stitching with her fingertip, recalling brutal training sessions under Afghanistan's desert sun. 3 years ago, an IED cost her legs, yet it could not steal the steel resolve in her heart. In that crucible of suffering, she learned to harness latent power, blending survival instinct with spycraft. The military once called her a hero. The FBI saw in her the perfect undercover agent. No one would suspect a disabled veteran could penetrate a violent criminal syndicate. Sarah donned her vest, feeling the balanced weight of her sniper rifle, combat knife, and radio. She nodded in satisfaction at her reflection. An unyielding woman, eyes cold as steel, ready to become darkness incarnate against evil. A faint crunch of gravel outside the window made Sarah stiffen. Her hand moved slowly to the Glock at her waist. In that moment, a car's headlights swept across the wall, then faded. The door burst open. Emma, her only friend and key intelligence asset, slipped in with a bag of food and her smartphone. Worry flickered in Emma's eyes. Her forced smile could not disguise her fears. Emma placed the bag on the table and whispered, "Victor's bragging at the bar. They'll make the big deal at the old sawmill, midnight tomorrow." Sarah looked up, her gaze ablaze with resolve. Emma was more than a friend. She bore the pain of losing her brother to the Vipers, which drove her to volunteer as a spy. Without a word, they pledged together, tomorrow, the crime must be shattered. On the computer screen, Sarah locked the sawmill coordinates, marking the danger zone in glaring red. She stepped back, brushed a strand of hair from her face, as if espionage were mere routine. Inside, every cell of her burned hot. Not even the night sky could extinguish her flame of justice. She flicked on the lights. 2 fluorescent bulbs blazed to life, illuminating the sweat gleaming on her brow. Turning to Emma, her voice was soft, yet firm. "We won't let them escape this time." Emma nodded, eyes misty but unwavering. She handed Sarah an iced black coffee, its bitter edge on the tongue a reminder. Awaken every sense. Be ready for the challenge. Before slipping away through the side door, Emma leaned in close. "Stay near your phone. I need to know their every move." Emma smiled faintly and vanished into the darkness. The door closed. Only Sarah remained amid flashing monitors and secret maps. She settled into the armchair by the control desk, lifting the radio to her mouth. Harper's voice crackled. "Tomorrow night, at the exact hour. Don't wait for local PD. When my signal turns red, act immediately." Sarah's reply was a single word, yet laden with commitment. "Understood." Outside the window, the first star glittered in the vast sky. Pinewood's night might be peaceful to most, but for Sarah, every passing moment was time to gather strength and intelligence. She closed her eyes, envisioning herself wheeling through the sawmill door as headlights illuminated Victor and his cronies, then squeezing the trigger with practiced precision. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, each silent second compounding the tension. Sarah rose and paced the room. Everything was in place: gear, allies, operational plan. The only thing missing was the moment when justice's spotlight would expose the Black Viper's true nature. The small suburban house sank into silence, the computer's cooling fan humming steadily. Sarah paused at the door, inhaled deeply, then drew the curtain aside to reveal the silvery moonlight on the horizon. In that glow, she saw the legs she had lost, yet stronger than ever in spirit. Tomorrow night, Pinewood would witness the historic confrontation between indomitable will and brutal crime. And Sarah Mitchell, the FBI agent in a wheelchair, would write the final chapter of the Black Viper's downfall. Tonight, she would sleep soundly, so that tomorrow she could awaken as their inevitable nightmare. The next morning, Pinewood awoke to the buzz of a hot rumor. Sarah Mitchell was leaving town. Curious eyes lined Main Street as her battered wheelchair rolled slowly along the sidewalk. 2 large boxes hastily strapped to her lap. Each time a wheel struck a curb, Sarah leaned forward to struggle with the obstacle. From afar, onlookers' hearts went out to the veteran woman, enduring so much. Just then, Emma's silver-gray pickup roared up to the porch, a thin plume of exhaust motes drifting in the crisp air. Emma jumped out, carefully loading the oversized luggage onto the truck bed. The engine's hurried rumble drowned out the birdsong in the trees. Through the open window, she called, "Sarah, I can't believe you're leaving!" This town needs you!" Her voice trembled with worry and fierce determination to protect her only friend. Sarah paused. A flicker of sadness and resolve crossed her face. She bowed her head toward the boxes and replied, voice unsteady, "They gave me no choice." The scene before them played out like a perfect drama. Villagers clapped in encouragement and whispered regrets. Pinewood's residents seemed convinced that Sarah's day had come to an end. She who had toppled the Black Vipers in that coffee shop, now forced to yield before some unseen pressure. But the Black Vipers had scripted this entire performance. Their covert database flashed with the message, "Prey is escaping." Victor Cobra Hayes boasted to his lackeys that he had driven Sarah from town, certain no one could keep a disguised FBI agent rooted in place. He swaggered into his favorite bar, twirling a beer cap in his fingers, relishing how the rumor spread like wildfire. In truth, the Android phone with a hidden tracker that Victor had snatched from Sarah lay safe in Emma's truck. When Emma skillfully slipped the device beneath the dashboard clock, it began transmitting victory signals back to FBI headquarters. The prey was obediently wheeling northward, closing in on the state line. Meanwhile, Sarah and Emma slipped out the back door of the suburban safe house, a fortified hideout bristling with locks and surveillance cameras. Gently closing the door, Sarah retrieved her key from a secret compartment and activated the hidden control panel behind the wall mirror. A faint green light signaled the high-security system powering up. Before her, a bank of monitors glowed. Feeds from the old sawmill gate, the container warehouse doors, and the open loading area by the frozen riverbank. The live footage showed the Vipers' activity surging. Trucks kept arriving and departing. Teams of burly arms hefted duffel bags, unloaded ammo crates, and inspected Kalashnikov rifles beside the steel containers. Amid the technical data and coordinate maps, a message from Agent Harper popped up in the corner. Mastermind behind this entire scheme, Colonel James Carver, a disgraced Army officer turned arms trafficker. He's overseeing the largest shipment ever. Those words on the screen rang like an alarm bell. Sarah narrowed her eyes as she studied the flow chart. A red dot moved from the transit depot toward the sawmill at midnight. Without hesitation, she rose and strode to the gear rack. Tactical weapons were neatly stowed there. An MK-14 sniper rifle, a suppressed Glock 19, smoke grenades, and an M79 grenade launcher. Most prominent was her special ops vest, each ammo pouch and clip hook precisely tailored for seated use. Sarah lifted the vest, feeling the heft of Kevlar panels, then checked every component of her wheelchair. Reinforced alloy frame, puncture-proof tires, and a hidden tray housing a mini launcher and combat knife beneath the floorboard. In that moment, memories of Afghanistan flooded back. The roar of explosions, the blast wave scorching her face, the jarring void when her legs were ripped away by fire. But she had not broken. Under the harsh white lights of the armory, Sarah allowed herself a small smile, the smile of someone who had stared death in the eye and prevailed. "They think they've won," she whispered, "but they've walked right into my trap." Outside, wind hissed through the window cracks, carrying the whisper of pine trees. A disabled heart could still become an unwitting assassin. Sarah donned her vest, tightened the safety straps, and slotted the sniper rifle into its rear compartment. She settled into her seat and shifted to align the barrel with her shoulder. The radio mic clipped to her lapel crackled to life. "Mitchell ready, awaiting orders." Silence enveloped the room, pregnant with the coming storm. In an instant, Victor's tracker phone buzzed with a fake message. "Arrived at safe zone. Farewell, Pinewood. Blue text danced across the screen, duping the Viper's command center into believing their prey had fled successfully. Meanwhile, the gray pickup sped northward, dozens of miles from Pinewood. Sarah gripped the radio and fixed her gaze on the digital map. The sawmill waypoint blazed crimson, the countdown timer in the corner ticking away seconds. In just a few hours, when night deepened and the forest fell silent, she would wheel out, breach the target via the back entrance, and strike. Everything was under control. Sniper position, fake medevac route, secret attic escape hatch. A soft knock startled her. Emma slipped back in quietly, handing Sarah a helmet fitted with a micro camera. "Record everything," Emma whispered. "The evidence will crush them." Sarah nodded and secured the chin strap. In their shared glance lay volumes unsaid. Tonight, Pinewood would witness the final chapter in the Black Viper's reign. From this tranquil suburb stronghold, Sarah Mitchell, the warrior in a wheelchair, was poised to punish the ring's leader, Colonel James Carver. The true hunter had never left. This time, Sarah would draw him into her snare, showing the world that an iron will bows to no prejudice. Outside the window, moonlight shimmered on the path to the old sawmill. Sarah pushed her chair forward. The wheels tapped softly on the tile floor, heralding justice's anthem. The safe-house door clicked shut behind her, yielding to a merciless night when the powerful would pay for their crimes. And Sarah Mitchell, the indomitable FBI agent, would write another triumphant chapter. The sawmill sat at the forest's edge, shrouded in night's velvet darkness. The wind whispered through the cracks in the rotting timbers, creating eerie echoes. Sarah Mitchell hunched behind a row of abandoned storage sheds, her wheelchair gliding silently over damp gravel. No sound louder than a soft sigh. Through the night vision lens on her helmet, she counted a dozen figures clad in black leather. The Viper's snake emblem flashed whenever they turned. Each carried heavy firepower, assault rifles, long-range marksman rifles, and large combat knives. She crouched low, whispering into her radio. "Harper, they've tightened security. Carver's arrived. There's a black SUV with diplomatic plates by the gate." At the mill entrance, Colonel James Carver stepped out of the gleaming SUV with military precision. His upright posture and decisive stride spoke of cold, disciplined authority. He strode past the guards, his low voice a command. "We're behind schedule, Victor. Don't screw this up." Victor Cobra Hayes, Black Viper's leader, leaned against a container, smirking. He adjusted his leather collar and sneered. "Relax, old man. I'll personally escort the shipment within 20 minutes. Sarah frowned, sensing something amiss. Why was Victor so confident when Carver, the shipment overseer, hadn't even taken position? She realized this wasn't the main drop. Quietly, she relayed, "Harper, check the trail by Miller's Creek. They're using the old path." Almost instantly, infrared drone footage confirmed 3 black trucks weaving through thickets by the creek. They bypassed the main checkpoint, moving stealthily along a hidden trail known only to locals. Sarah allowed herself a cold smile. Clever, but not clever enough. She propelled her chair northeast, hugging berms and underbrush for cover. Each rustling leaf helped her gauge the lead vehicle's position and its escort. The night grew darker still when her motion sensor chirped. A second group was approaching from the east. This was no simple handoff. It was a black market auction. The Vipers were double-dealing, selling arms to multiple buyers at once to maximize profit. Chaos erupted at the sawmill. Only now did Sarah understand. Carver wasn't merely overseeing the transfer. He was splitting payment in installments. When the second party arrived, he realized he'd have to divide the spoils beyond the original agreement. At center stage, Carver drew his silenced Glock and pressed it to Victor's temple, his voice low and menacing. "You think I need you?" Betrayal shone in his eyes. Victor blinked in disbelief, barely managing a cry before the first gunshot rang out. Rounds slammed into the container wall, spraying metal fragments everywhere. The Vipers screamed and scrambled. Carver's shots rang out in rapid succession, each a hammer blow against steel. Victor and his henchmen tried to fight back but were overwhelmed by Carver's precision. The sawmill transformed into a nightmarish battlefield. Cries of the wounded, desperate pleas for mercy, and the clang of steel doors echoed through the stillness. Sarah watched through her night lens, choosing not to intervene. She let justice play out, letting the traitor purge the criminals. But when Carver staggered toward the mill's rear exit, she knew she could wait no longer. Her voice crackled over the radio, hoarse yet calm. "Harper, I'm pursuing Carver." She released the hidden latch beneath her seat and drew her reinforced MK-14 sniper rifle. The suppressor was whisper quiet. One pull of the trigger, and her target would fall without raising alarm. Sarah pushed forward into the darkness, weaving past debris and splintered beams. Under the thin moonlight, she pressed against a wooden wall, seeking a clear shot. Carver peered through a gap, suspicion in his cold eyes. He didn't have time to shield Victor when a calm, authoritative whisper drifted from the shadows. "Stay still, Carver." The sniper rifle cracked. The round sang like a breeze and struck his shoulder, sending him sprawling into the back utility room. He collapsed, struggling to lift his head as vision blurred. Sarah held her next shot. She needed him alive for interrogation. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. She wheeled forward, lowered her rifle, and stared down at Carver huddled on the concrete, the once honored officer now moaning in a bloodstain. In that moment, she understood. Justice wasn't revenge. It was revealing the truth. Far off, police engines rumbled closer, flashing blue and red through the mill's cracked doors. Harper's team moved in, quietly cuffing Victor, still dazed, and rushing Carver onto a stretcher. Sarah stood, reholstered her sniper rifle, and tidied her gear. Then she spoke into her radio. "Primary objective complete, awaiting further instructions." Pinewood's night returned to silence, broken only by the wind rustling the pines. In that quiet, one figure in a wheelchair remained hidden in the dark. Sarah Mitchell, veteran and FBI agent, having flawlessly dismantled the largest arms network Pinewood had ever known. No cheers rang out, but tonight, justice thundered through the blackness, proving that true strength lies not in muscle, but in unwavering will and sharp intellect. As the convoy of prisoner transports faded down the gravel road, Pinewood awoke with renewed faith. Even in the deepest darkness, the light of justice can banish crime. The sawmill became a deadly labyrinth as gunfire erupted in every direction. Sarah Mitchell darted between piles of splintered wood, her wheelchair gliding like a phantom through the choking smoke. Sparks crackled from discharged rounds, the acrid scent of gunpowder stung her nostrils, but she remained unshaken. Her fingers squeezed the trigger with mechanical precision. Each metal bullet cut through the air without error, knocking down black vipers one by one, incapacitating but never lethal. Smoke, screams, and shrapnel splintered against her night vision lens, painting a chaotic tableau of violence and intellect. Victor Cobra Hayes, the gang's leader, snapped awake to the roar of Sarah's assaults. As swift as thunder, he barked for his men to fall back, his voice hoarse with fury. "Form up! Retreat now!" But every escape route lay blocked. Sarah calculated her path, weaving her wheelchair in deft zigzags around the debris. As Victor charged into the open, she cut him off, firing a decisive shot into his shoulder. He howled in pain and collapsed against an iron support beam, bound tightly with rope. "Federal agent," she announced above the storm of gunfire. Her gaze was as cold and sharp as ice. Yet the showdown had only just begun. Colonel James Carver, the traitor in crisp uniform, leapt onto the nearby armored SUV's roof. He leaned into the window and unleashed a volley of shots at Sarah like lightning strikes. The armored vehicle's surface scored with deep gouges, forcing Sarah to hug the perimeter and return fire. Carver smirked, holding up his tablet. Its screen displayed file after file, weapon shipments, corrupt officials, massive money laundering networks. Every shipment, every crooked politician, they're all here. And you led us right to them. His words pierced Sarah's heart like a dagger. Her wheelchair came to a halt on the glass-strewn concrete. Carver climbed down, towering with smug satisfaction. He revealed that her investigation was but the tip of the iceberg, orchestrated by the architect, a brilliant ex-CIA operative who had laid the bomb that stole her legs 3 years ago. "You're her masterpiece," Carver sneered. "A disabled veteran proving strength through adversity. She wanted the world to see nothing more inspiring." Memories of Kabul's fiery blast, comrades' desperate cries, and the shock of losing her legs surged back, but Sarah refused to let the past consume her. She inhaled deeply. Her eyes flashed with resolve. "She's wrong," she whispered, voice trembling yet resolute. Her hand darted to a concealed button beneath her seat, her micro EMP device. A pulse of electricity surged through the air. The armored SUV's headlights dimmed. The helicopter's engines shuddered and died. Silence fell, eerily profound. Rotor blades hung motionless. Machinery clicked, then fell mute. Carver's eyes widened as his plan unraveled. Sarah swiftly dismounted her wheelchair, drawing on her upper body strength and close combat training from Special Ops School. She charged Carver's guards. Her strikes, elbows and fists like sledgehammers, fell with brutal efficacy before they could cry out. Their screams echoed through the devastated mill. Carver fumbled for his sidearm, thrusting it at Sarah's chest. His gaze glittered with murderous intent, but Sarah stood firm, sidestepping his aim, then delivered a precise blow to his jaw that sent him sprawling unconscious onto the concrete beside the silent helicopter. "I don't need wheels to defeat you," she declared, voice unwavering. For a moment, all was still. Only the wind hissed through warped planks. Then, in the distance, the hum of tactical vehicles approached. Red and blue lights flickered through the mill's open exit. Agents stormed in, cuffing the last of the Black Vipers and loading Carver onto a stretcher for medical aid. In their flashing glow, Sarah straightened, her back trembling, but her eyes ablaze with triumph. Under the first dawn light, Pinewood seemed reborn. She wheeled herself out of the sawmill, leaving wreckage and defeated criminals behind. Yet Sarah knew the architect still lurked in the shadows, forging more armies of wounded warriors like herself. She paused at the mill gate, gazing at the pale pink horizon. An east wind stirred her hair, carrying a chill, and the sweet promise of hope. Sarah whispered to herself, "Strength doesn't come from disability, but from how we choose to rise." With those words, she pushed forward, toward uncharted territory where the architect continued her schemes. This game had never ended. It had only just begun. Sarah Mitchell, veteran and FBI agent in a wheelchair, would write the next chapters of this relentless battle between justice and darkness. Please leave your thoughts and comments. Share to spread these inspiring stories with your family and friends in the United States.